because cities are not responsible alone for unsheltered homelessness and substance use disorders and mental health issues. We are all of our societies. And so, therefore, all governments should be part of the solution and should be having a seat at the table as well as their funds at the table. So that's why I think bringing the what's happening at the opioid settlement space, and how to put those funds to work for the gaps that we have are important. So I hope that we continue pushing the envelope and the innovation and continue asking questions as to like where are the gaps and how and who we need to invite to the table to help us with these issues. So open up for comments or questions. Councilmember Cunningham and then Vice Mayor.
So a few things, and this is stuff we're already working on, but I want to let people know we're working on it because some of the inside baseball folks have these questions, and if you'll indulge me for a second, when I first got on the council, I just assumed that no one had thought of stuff I thought of. And I talked to so many constituents and folks around the city who they'll make a suggestion. It's a really good suggestion, except that what they don't realize is that we're kind of already doing that. A lot of things we're already doing. But I want to talk about um, that continuum of information, not continuum of care. We've kind of figured that out. Everybody's got their niches, and organically it's starting to fall into place. But the continuum of information. So we have an officer make an engagement, and they JAGE on it, and so we have a log of that. But a lot of our social workers, especially the ones that we contract with, have zero information there to track those engagements. A social worker will then go and engage and at least give them water, like not do anything clinical, just give them water, let them know, blah, blah, blah. Hey, gee whiz, but they can't say, hey, you do have a court date, just a reminder. And they can't say, hey, you do, because they don't have access to that information in real time. And then we'll have another person come in from our own agency and they'll interview somebody who's actually already probably maybe had some services from us, but blew their placement. And they won't have that knowledge until later on in the conversation after they've already started that process. So the question is, and I know we're working on it, so I'm asking about progress on this. How are we doing in getting that continuum of information so that our navigators, our encampment experts, our CSOs, our officers all have this information real time so that they have the most up-to-date and current information necessary to make conscientious decisions on each case? That's my question.
So one of the things that we're working on is through the homeless management information system. What we'd like to have happen is opening some of the program information to be on the first sheet that would pop up. So for example, if Brandy was a case manager that was coming out to me, she could go through, have the information, ask, do you want to take shelter? What are your barriers to taking shelter? Oh, it's my family composition. I don't want to be separated from my significant other. Can't be male, female, or it's a pet, or it's my substance use. There's not a low enough shelter for me to go to. And so something that we can have that you don't have to start from the beginning every time you go to help somebody out. It kind of gives you okay, hey, Brandy talked to Madi, looks like, talked to you last week, you declined shelter for this, but what if we work on, getting your pet fostered for a while? Would you consider that then? Looks like you also got some medical things that we can probably help you with. And it's not starting from day one, and because for a lot of them, they have to tell their story over and over and over to different outreach workers. So how we can work with, and the information lies in the county. It lands, they hold the HMIS data, and they're willing to work with us. We're just trying to figure out what it is that we need to see for that. And the second thing is the housing attempt to locate, which they call the HADL. That would be the list of individuals that show up that have vouchers ready. That can be, the information can be disaggregated and it could be shared with police officers. So if for some reason a police officer has somebody there, they can pull up that HADL list and say, hey, did you know you have a voucher ready for you? OPCS is ready for, and then they make that contact and they can get to the case manager. So those are the two big things that we've been working on. But I definitely think having the information kind of set and ready to go where they don't have to start everything all over again would be super helpful.
I know we're also working on remote court
Yeah.
and real-time remote court so that folks can quash warrants in the field and stuff like that, but not just to quash warrants, but also at least get some understanding of their legal things. Again, when we're engaging with folks that are under the influence at the time, it makes it a lot tougher. And what's even tougher is that we get folks that are under the influence a lot, but when they're not under the influence and they're in that moment of clarity that we've talked about, they're actually coming to us and they're ready. And if it doesn't happen right away, we get into this. So we want to have that kind of bridge that gets us there. I know you guys are all working on this stuff. I love hearing about the updates. I think the online tracking cloud, like a tracking cloud, that all 5 groups, whether you're a social worker, whether you're with housing, whether you're with legal system like courts, like if you're like the PD or the PD social worker, or if you're law enforcement, or if you're even fire, maybe we have to have some type of unified trackability. And I don't know how we get there. It's a lot. No one else has it. We're literally making it up right now. But I think we can probably get there where we have some continuity on how to track each individual. One thing I will say is this. One of the places that's been a resource for me is actually there's a Facebook page where family members are asking for people to look out for their loved ones. I urge Tucsonans to join it. It's a situation where if you see somebody, a lot of these folks, a lot of the parents or family members or brothers or sisters, they just want to know their brother's okay. And when they don't hear from them for 2 or 3 weeks, they post some pictures. That information can help us, and it helps us remember that a lot of these folks that are in this situation still have people that love them. And so if we can keep our eye on that, I think we're going to be doing a lot better work than some of the other cities. So that's my input for this afternoon, but I really want to thank you guys for coming.
Thank you, Councilmember. We do have Councilmember Lee's hand is up. So Councilmember Lee, and then we'll go to Councilmember Fimbres. And then we're gonna have to leave it there. Oh.
Thank you, Mayor. And
You'll be
I
the
will be
last one.
brief. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to obviously thank the team for all the hard work they do every single day to make this incremental, massive change, though, that we're seeing in the neighborhood and the community. I also wanted to specifically thank the team for the amazing job that they did, not just Brandy and Madi, but Carlos and his team. I'm looking at my notes from May, over 30 people from ES. I know TPD, TFD, so many different departments were involved with the 100-acre cleanup to enable the federal government to come in and start doing much needed PFAS remediation. Carlos, I have in my notes that your team removed 400 tons or 800,000 pounds of trash and debris out of that area. So that was just another example of such a huge accomplishment that the team made to enable some really necessary things to happen in our community. So great work to the team. Thanks for everything that you all are doing. That's all I wanted to say, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. Councilmember Fimbres, and then we'll finish off with the Vice Mayor.
Well, I think everybody's working on this. You know, Mayor, we've been doing this since last 10 years that I've been in here. And I'm thanking the staff, everybody's working hard on this. My colleagues on the council, yourself, Madam Mayor, you give us a direction, Brandy Champion and Wiki with ICS came out there and did a research on this. We gotta keep working on this though. We got to solve this problem. Tucson gonna do this first one in the city, in the country to solve this problem. Thank you, Brandy.
Thank you, Councilmember, and then Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Again, I am so appreciative of the work of all 3 of your teams. Ward 3, we're like ground zero for people who are experiencing houselessness and people who are on the street doing fentanyl who may or may not be houseless. And it makes, I think, the impact of homelessness seem bigger. The opioid crisis is something we're going to have to work on hard. I had a question and then I answered it myself, but it helped me understand. You were talking about response to encampment report going from 2 weeks to two days, and that's great. We work with Cashew a lot and creating care coordinators for people experiencing homelessness to try to get them in the system, and they do great work. I can't praise Cashew more than enough. Because of staffing problems, they went from, we could tell people your care coordinator will contact you within 3 days. Now it's a week. But it's just they're having to hire staffing. So again, wonderful work. And Carlos, your team is very responsive when we get reports, not just of homeless encampments, but someone's dumped a bunch of trash in my alley. Doing great work over there. And the people who are doing the cleanups, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
I promised that you would be the last one, but something popped into my my brain. Okay, the report, I just remind my colleagues in the community, the report on the individuals staying at Wildcat Desert Cove in Amazon includes 62 children that would otherwise be homeless. So we need to keep that in mind as to what these resources do, not just for individuals, but for children and families. The other thing that I wanted to ask about or just comment on really is that our climate resilience office also partnered with Housing First to distribute, what are they called? Cooling kits with water and Gatorade and all kinds of goodies. How many did we distribute? Do we know right off the bat? Today. So we've distributed, I think, more than 300 cooling kits in partnership with Housing First and Parks and Recreation and our Office of Resiliency. Mr. Tamir, did you want to add something?
Thank you, Mayor. Just for a quick second. The point I wanted to make is that's a way that literally everybody can contribute.
Mhm.
Because while these teams, which I thank for their work in the field, for example, last month, my executive leadership team, we went out and worked with Brandy and her team to put those cooling kits together, but also there's care kits that have like snacks and water and sunscreen and things like that. So there's the right work in the right hands, and there's also the many hands make light work. So there's always a chance to affect this outcome by participating, and the cooling kits are an example of that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you all so much. Really appreciate the incredible work you do. Alrighty, we move on to item 12. I requested that the Arts Foundation of Tucson and Southern Arizona give mayor and council an update and presentation. I want to especially thank Adriana for this comprehensive report that she's about to give the mayor and council on this. And then someone that is key to putting it all together, especially with the Arts Foundation and the work that we're doing with the Somos Uno Cultural Heritage Strategy, is Lane Mandel, your Chief of Staff, Mr. Tamir. She puts it all together. She's the glue that makes it all work. So thank you, Lane. Adriana, I know that you have some team members here. Thank you so much for the presentation, and the floor is yours.
Muchas gracias. Muy buenas tardes. Good afternoon, Mayor Romero, council members, Vice Mayor Dahl, City Manager, and community members. My name is Adriana Gallego. I'm the CEO of the Arts Foundation for Tucson and Southern Arizona. I have a few updates to share with you today on behalf of the team and board of the Arts Foundation for Tucson and Southern Arizona. Considering the series of social, health, environmental, and economic conditions affecting our daily lives, I'm grateful for the opportunity to work through these daily challenges by invoking the transformative power of the arts as an antidote to the vulnerabilities in our human condition and as a projection for the collective manifestation of our dream work. We are here today as a testament to the value our leaders have placed on arts and cultural expression as key contributors to individual health, social connectedness at a time when our communities need it the most. The mission of the Arts Foundation is to advance artistic expression, civic participation, and equitable economic growth. Our vision to affect systemic change that fosters an accessible, diverse, inclusive, and equitable arts community is not one that will be accomplished in silos. Our team is listening, ready to do the work, and to continuing to collaborate in making it so. What I wanted to share with you today is the list of partners that we have been working very collaborative with over the last 4 years and even before my time to ensure that the arts are seen as partners and as solution generators to the issues that we face in our time. Artists have families, artists contribute to the economic vitality of our communities, and artists have a way of seeing things that may not be visible to the layperson's eye, but will be able to bring it to life by exercising their ability to see things differently. I'm excited to announce that in the next couple of weeks, we will be launching a funding program thanks to Tucson ARPA grants, community partnership grants, where artists will have the opportunity to select their own clients in any sector, nonprofit, government agency, or peer-to-peer support to be able, A, to create a job and be able to work this year, and two, to be able to integrate a different perspective into another arena. The Arts Foundation was built by community for community in the 70s. A decade later, Pima County and the city of Tucson designated our agency as the principal mechanism through which arts and cultural activities will be planned and carried out within the metropolitan area. This opportunity arose just not even, maybe a little over a decade after the foundation of the National Endowment for the Arts, and after every state created a commission for the state of arts. So in 1971, a group of local residents decided to create a council by which it would be a catalyst and information resources for the cultural development for Greater Tucson. And fast forward to today, we are happy to announce, and we are honored to be entrusted with the provision of services to artists, culture bearers, and culture workers across Tucson, Pima County, and Southern Arizona, from the southern edges of the Gila River to the multidimensional borderlands stretching across tribal nations, state and international borders, including my hometown of Nogales. It's been such a privilege and a pleasure to be able to activate Tucson's notion as a home, as a hub for so many of us who may have been born around rural communities. The work that we do simulates the migratory economies that exist in our Southern Arizona sector. So what the gifts and the channeling of resources is a reciprocity that is felt and transmitted not just by the workforce that comes into Tucson and delivers important services, but also the reciprocity of being able to support our families in Tucson and beyond. You may be asking what a local arts agency is. And local arts agencies come in very different scopes and sizes in terms of the services that we provide. And basically, there are about 4,000 local arts agencies across the country. And we work to support the local arts economies, either through nonprofit and for-profit collaborations, or through nonprofit and public collaborations. And sometimes there are local arts agencies that may not have an intergovernmental agreement with their local city or county in a formal sense, but in a functional sense, they do work, and we all look very different across the country. The services that we provide are very comprehensive, and we do this on behalf of the city of Tucson. We employ highly trained arts professionals to provide specialized services, convenings, and training in arts and culture business management for artists and arts organizations. I'm proud to say that when I first came into the Arts Foundation in April 2020, we had 3.5 staff. And now we are upwards of 10 full-time staff, 1 part-time staff, and we are able to collaborate with 8 women-owned businesses. 100% of our teammates are working artists in various disciplines. So in essence, we invest in the product that we believe in. Um, so we're very fortunate to be able to count on the investments that the city of Tucson contributes to our organization, and through that relationship, we're able to distribute support through communities, and we're able to leverage support by the state, by the federal government, and by private entities, as well as Pima County. When I inherited the Arts Foundation in April 2020, the board and community had come up with a very prescient strategy, a very prescient strategic plan, which was actually very helpful in getting us through the early days of the pandemic and in continuing to be able to activate the vision. It really gave a reference point for how we have and how we will continue to co-author the terms for the future together. The staff and board and volunteers of the Arts Foundation created this community-informed strategic plan with equity as the North Star of how we can do better for our communities. Through these investments, our vibrant arts and culture ecosystem is able to activate creativity, inspire, heal, and tell stories of our time to foster belonging and to nourish joy. You could say that out of the pandemic, the Arts Foundation emerged as a 50-year-old startup. We were very lean, and we had the team had survived so many different changes in leadership, and had survived different economic downturns. And we certainly couldn't have done this without you and your advocacy to support the organization through our different relationships and contracts. The way that we were able to optimize the strategic plan is by planning out a 4-year scalable model. You'll see that the future is yet to be determined. That's something we'll be working with our board and team. But basically, we set a course in action for relief, recovery, rebuilding, and regenerated. And we did this through a combination of funding support, public art, promotion, and advocacy. Wanted to share a couple of highlights with you to impart the ways in which we are communicating the vibrant arts economies of Tucson and Southern Arizona at a national level. Recently, we were one of a handful of local arts agencies that were invited to a summit at the White House on behalf of the White House and Domestic Policy and the National Endowment for the Arts, where Dr. Maria Rosario Jackson, in collaboration with other sectors at the federal government level, we're talking about the various ways in which arts are integral to other sectors. So I was able to meet with representatives from the Department of Transportation and let them know what a wonderful public art program and collaboration we have here in Tucson. I was able to meet with representatives from HUD to let them know about how the Thrive in the 05 projects are coming along here in Tucson. And I got to meet U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, who was also very happy to hear that we were doing city and county collaborations with the Pima County Department of Health, integrating art as an important and viable option to generate solutions for health issues such as the opioid crisis or or recovery from the COVID pandemic, not just the physical implications, but the health and mental conditions as well. We've also been able to bring in 1 million new funding support to Tucson and Southern Arizona. The last several years, we've been, our open studio tours, artists have been able to generate, it's a marketplace where you can go see, visit artists in their studio space so you can see where the magic happens. And so please be on the lookout for that program this year, November 8th, 9th, and 10th. Through some of the community impact initiatives. I think one of the most important things that warms my heart is that through our various programs, we're actually able to bring community members into conversation with each other in an evaluative way where they're actually assessing the pros and cons of specific situations through the arts. In the last year alone, through our grants program and the public art program, my team has hosted over 105 of these types of conversations. And so they're not presentations or meetings, they're literal conversations with community. And so we've reached about 1,300, almost 1,400 participants being able to engage in a critical analysis and dialogue with respect to their communities. And of course, we make deep investments in workforce development, where we have published and promote the incredible arts community that we have here in Tucson that work in different sectors. Public art is one of the important ways in which Tucson invests in art that is accessible to community. During the COVID pandemic, many families, children, friends who were not able to congregate at large scale were actually making events out of visiting these works of art out in communities. So when people really needed a break or an opportunity to see something new, experience something different, they sought opportunities by enjoying the incredible public artwork collection that has been built over the years. Since 2020, we have seen a 75% increase in the public artworks. Bless you. And we have heard very distinctly from our elected officials and our community members that it's really important that our local artists also see themselves as beneficiaries of the opportunities for the thousands of jobs that are available through such programs. And so because of that, my team is creating a public art core curriculum. We've already presented the prototype to arts administrators that work in city departments and in other arts organizations. And we're also working with individual artists who are BIPOC and women who are very much underrepresented in this particular marketplace. We also want our artists to be competitive at a national field. The equity constellations that we've been able to distribute on your behalf has yielded over $3.4 million investment. That includes, the majority of it is federal funds that came through the stewardship of the city of Tucson, and we managed on your behalf. And we were able to also be good neighbors by leveraging a little bit of federal funds to also support our other communities in our surrounding region. And so we've finally been able to reach 21 rural towns and Tucson. The majority of the grants goes to individual artists and their families. That's 63 families, which received 31% of the funding. 221 organizations received 29% of the funding. We were able to, here you can see the funding distribution between the 20 other rural communities. The majority, 90% of the funds and the awards do stay in the city of Tucson proper, as you can see the distribution between the wards. And I think the distribution of funding is very much in line with the density of arts and culture workers in any one particular ward. And the demographics are slightly different when we look at public art. For example, in public art, Ward 4 actually has been enjoying about 17% of the new public artworks coming into town. So that's been, this just an incredible way of looking in terms of the different ways in which your investment is showing up around town, and how we're working in community together. And just to be clear, City Tucson funds stay in City Tucson tax dollars. But the knowledge is porous. So in these particular charts, which we see in terms of the way that the City of Tucson funds the Arts Foundation and then the output that we provide in community, most of the shows you the extent, the degree of different applications, grants, contracts, partnerships that we have solicited over the last 4 years to ensure that we're able to share resources in community. The graph there shows a correlation between our income as an arts foundation and the output in terms of grants. You see the blue line is funding from the City of Tucson, and the green line represents the regranting portfolio. So we try, as you can see, this proves that most of our funding is passed through. When we have a good year, everybody has a good year. And just a fun fact is that in 2001, the Arts Foundation budget was $800,000, I think, and the contribution, and it would have been equivalent to $1.4 million now, I think. This is the team. Accountability is you'll see the direction flows from left to right, and our most important community are the community members on the far right, who we are beholden to, who represent community members in general. So all the work that we do really leads and falls into the hands of the Public Art and Community Design Committee, community panel, artists, and arts organizations. And then, it circles back. And finally, almost finally, the Arts Foundation is powered by artists. This is our fiscal year 24 roster. We are listed in order of appearance. So starting with 2020 and then somewhere along the line, I think our most recent teammates in 2023 and 2024. So I couldn't have done this work without people like my teammates, who are such incredible professionals and very creative, and their moral compass is leading with compassion. So very happy to work with them. And I'll just leave us on this note. One of my favorite troubadours is Silvio Rodriguez, and he says, prefiero hablar de lo imposible porque de lo posible se sabe demasiado. I prefer to speak of those things that are impossible because we already know too much of what is possible. Questions?
Thank you so much, Adriana. That was a wonderful presentation. And one of the reasons that I wanted you back in front of us is I don't know if you've ever been here in front of us since you became the executive director. And so it has been a wild 4 years. And you have been an incredible partner to the city of Tucson to be able to, especially with CARES funds and the ARPA funds, and we created the Somos Uno foundation. We used the foundation to put out money on. It was incredible to just call you and basically say the mayor and council want to make sure that our arts organizations don't, are not dismantled because of COVID, especially those places that rely on people going to presentations and to concerts and all of this artistic infrastructure, we didn't want it to go away. So you played an incredible role with that. And you have also been playing an incredible role with the Somos Uno cultural strategy, giving us input, feedback, and really helping guide the process every step of the way. So congratulations. I am all for bringing in federal funds to Tucson, and you've been pretty successful at bringing the funds in so that we can re-grant and then we can create that infrastructure at the Arts Foundation that is so important. Um, I've been looking at some numbers in terms of what art does to our economy, and it is really impressive what art and artists and arts organizations do, not just for the economy and the return on investment in the economy, but also what it does to distinguish Tucson from other areas. So I just wanted to add that and wanted to open up if there's any questions or comments, concerns, input, feedback. Adriana is available for that. Vice Mayor.
Seems like I have something to say about everything. at
That's
this point.
good.
But I want to compliment you on the presentation. I don't think of arts as being so statistically based. And I was excited by all those statistics. And it shows that you're really doing good work. In my ward, there's a nonprofit that's involved in arts, the Drawing Studio. Does your foundation have any connection with them?
Absolutely. We collaborate with the drawing studio. We had one of their representatives was in our JEDI, Justice, Equity, and Diversity Committee.
I love it when you use
And a proclamation for along to co-sign on the proclamation along with other arts organizations. They do incredible work, and they're absolutely one of our grantees, certainly. They're very professional.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any others? All right. Remember?
Thank you for the presentation. I think that a lot of things get lost on the ROI we get from arts. Not only it's one of those cool things that's a business incubator as well as an empowerment tool, as well as brings people together, as well as enhances community value all in one. A lot of people can't quantify that. I'll make the commitment right now to continue to work towards funding the arts properly so that we're ahead of the game. So I just wanted to let you know that for a guy who's really well known for funding youth sports, I know this might come as a surprise, but I'm just as enthusiastic about the arts, especially for kids. So just want to let you know that totally on the team. And I appreciate you coming in and again, giving us this opportunity so that some of the folks who have doubts about arts actually see quantifiably why it's so important to our community.
Thank you so much, Councilmember.
Well
Canino.
said. Any others? Alrighty, Adriana, thank you so much and your entire team for the incredible work that you do. You're small but mighty and growing. Thanks for your cultivating the arts here in Tucson. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your
you.
time.
Really appreciate you. Alrighty, so we're moving to item 13. Time has been set aside for a quarterly update on the management of PFAS here in the city of Tucson. Mr. Manager.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, coming to the table is Water Director John Kamik, and he'll be giving you the update on PFAS and how the water we serve continues to be safe.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, council members, city manager. Excuse me. This PFAS quarterly update is to document that occurred at the national, state, and local levels during the second quarter of this calendar year 2024 April 1st through June 30th. First and foremost, Tucson Water's potable system. Water system should be free of any known PFAS impacts. Rigorous testing over the years have identified several areas of the aquifer in the Tucson basin that need to be avoided to ensure PFAS compounds are not unknowingly distributed to the community. To date, we have proactively turned off 22 potable wells over the last few years and have restricted the use for emergency only for 7 additional wells. In addition to the Tucson Airport remediation project has been rerouted from the potable system to the non-potable beneficial use status, supplying water for the reclaimed water system, as well as a discharge location on the Santa Cruz River, known as the Heritage Park Irvington Outfall. On average, just under 10% of daily production from this facility is going to the outfall in the Santa Cruz River, while the vast majority of the highly treated water is being distributed to the reclaimed water system across the community. Early in this quarter, the US EPA did provide finalized national primary drinking water regulations for some PFAS compounds. This has been something that we have been encouraging and waiting for many years. The new rule provides criteria for 5 PFAS compounds directly. PFOA not to exceed 4 part per trillion with a goal of 0. PFOS not to exceed 4 part per trillion with a goal of 0. PFHXS not to exceed 10 part per trillion. PFNA not to exceed 10 part per trillion. And HFPO-DA, also known as Gen X, not to exceed 10 part per trillion. In addition to the individual regulations, the EPA also established a hazard index regulation that takes any occurrence of 2 or more compounds of PFHXS, PFNA, Gen X, and PFBS and creates an additive ratio using their contaminant limit or health advisory. If the final value is above 1, then that would result in regulatory exceedance. The positive news is that these EPA regulations were very consistent with the Tucson Water internal operating guidelines that we have established and had in place for many years. In addition to PFAS drinking water regulations, the US EPA has also designated 2 compounds, PFOA and PFOS, as hazardous substances. This designation occurred on April 19th, 2024. This will help expedite measures for environmental cleanups by providing an official cleanup standard for responsible parties to adhere to. Upon direction received from Mayor and Council in October of 22, Tucson Water has started work on the Randolph Park PFAS project, which will include a new well and a PFAS treatment facility in Randolph Park located at the north end of the existing plume of the PFAS that is emanating from the Davis-Monthan area. This project is intended to capture and treat contaminated groundwater from further migration into the Tucson Water service area, preventing further impact to Tucson Water's central well field. Treated water will be beneficially reused for irrigation at the golf course. Construction has begun with the drilling of a remediation well in the compound. Development of the well to meet intended recovery targets is ongoing. The construction of the treatment facility will begin later this fall. This project is funded in part by $6.7 million from the 2022 Colorado River System Conservation proceeds, as previously approved by Mayor and Council. Additionally, the Omnibus Appropriations Bill of 2024 will ultimately provide $2.25 million offset for the project. The bill was signed into law on March 9th, 2024, and was very well supported by our local, federal, congressional members. The activities at the site should cause very little disruption to the course itself and minimal interruption to the walking path along Broadway Avenue. Staff from Water and Parks will continue to work jointly to ensure safety to the general public is maintained throughout the construction. Since this project would be categorized as an environmental project, there will be no interruptions to potable or reclaimed water service in the area. Staff has also completed the final design of a treatment facility to be added ahead of the TARP AOP plant. This project is designed to remove PFAS from incoming water from the TARP well field so the original TARP AOP facility can return to its original intent, the removal of TZE and 1,4-dioxane with granular activated carbon for peroxide quenching. The final acceptance of the design and the ultimate construction is expected to take just over 2 years before it becomes operational. This project is currently being funded by the state of Arizona and will have a total cost near $24.9 million. Moving on to the north, the Northwest Wellhead Treatment Facility project received final approval from the Arizona WIFA Board during the October 18, 2023 meeting and was approved by Mayor and Council during the November 14, 23 meeting. Tucson Water has started initial preliminary design work and is working with city real estate to ensure properties to be used and additional sites are secured. This project will take approximately 2 years to complete. Tucson Water is currently working to procure a final design consultant and construction team. Once completed, the northerly area of the city's main water system will have nearly 3 million gallons per day of highly treated water returned back to the water system portfolio. As a quick update to our product liability lawsuit that is being heard in Charleston, South Carolina, the city of Tucson has filed its first claim forms in this quarter. This information will assist the court in determining the impact of PFAS contamination to participating plaintiff utilities in that case, like Tucson Water. This information is a combination of laboratory data and historic groundwater production. Later this month, the city will also be filing a second claim form to support additional information requests. And lastly, of significant note, the US EPA, with support from ADEQ, sent an emergency administrative order for response to the US Air Force and Arizona Air National Guard on May 29, 2024. This order outlines expected actions that the US EPA is requiring from those parties to address the PFAS issues associated with the Morris Air National Guard Base and Air Force Plant 44 at Tucson Airport. Since May 29th, there has been continued correspondence between the parties involved on how they address the requirements put forth by the US EPA. As of the latest correspondence, the Air Force is due to provide the US EPA a detailed plan at the end of this month. As those correspondence and actions between the parties continue, we will continue to brief the council and community in future updates and quarterly reports. Honorable Mayor and Council Member, that concludes this quarterly report.
Thank you so much, John. Really appreciate it. I guess for me, my question is, and I don't know if this is a legal question that we have to consider an executive, but what's the next step? I know that the EPA issued the emergency administrative order, but there was a response that we were very concerned about. So I guess what's next?
Honorable Mayor, I think your instincts are right in terms of next steps is probably a discussion for executive session. But what you've said here publicly is not just important, but entirely accurate. The order was issued, a response was provided contesting the order and or the authority of the EPA to require the planning and mitigation actions that were the subject of the order. So that's going to take some time to play out as legal arguments are raised on both sides or all sides. And at the appropriate time, we will come back to the mayor and council when we have more information and enough to brief you about and get your direction as to next steps with respect to that. I did want to follow up on something that John said because he had a lot of information to cover, but we did get the claim forms timely submitted in advance of the July deadline. And I just want to note that that was a huge lift. And the folks in Tucson Water and then in my office, particularly Chris from my office and lots of folks in John's office, put tremendous amount of effort into getting that material all submitted for the court. It's going to be the basis for what the allocation of relief is out of the litigation. So this is a huge step. But now we're in the midst of the next huge step, which is submitting our supplemental claims under what's called the special needs category, which is a hugely important part, particularly for the city of Tucson and Tucson Water, because we probably as much or more so than any other water provider in the nation have taken extraordinary steps at extraordinary cost, as you are all well aware, to mitigate the impacts of PFAS and to keep our water safe for all of our customers. So those special needs claims are a critical and essential part of our ability to recover funds through the litigation.
Well, in keeping track of the back and forth and the help that the EPA applied to the Air Force, their response is like, we're not causing any harm. Well, because we're cleaning it, we're remediating the water, and we're paying for it, for something that you all did. And so I would love to be able to know how to help elevate this, and I would highly recommend that we keep our congressional delegation and including our senators, well informed on this, because they have been following with us, right? Our congressional members that represent Tucson, Senator Kelly, Senator Sinema, they have all been paying attention to our needs and our concerns in terms of PFAS. So I think it's important that we keep them in the loop, informed on where we are and all of the back and forth that has been happening between Tucson, the EPA, and the DOD. Karen?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all for the update. And I want to thank you, Mayor, for staying in touch with our delegation. I think it's frustrating, to say the least, to have federal, state, and local authorities not aligned when we theoretically all are representing the same interests and the needs of our community. And so I think touching base with the federal delegation is really critical, and uh, uh, and do want to emphasize that point. And I know the presentation was opened by our city manager with the point that the mayor and council has been incredibly proactive in ensuring that regardless of the power jockeying and the finger pointing, especially early on, we took measures immediately, very expensive, decisive steps to construct a treatment plant and to get on top of the needs of Tucson water to keep our water safe and clean. And I fully expect that we will continue to be very aggressive in holding the parties accountable so that the community and Tucson can be reimbursed for all of those costs. But regardless, I do think it's just important to emphasize we recognize and take very seriously our responsibility to safeguard our water supply.
Any others? All right, if there's no more questions, thank you so much, John. Thank you so much, Tim. Really appreciate the work of Chris Avery and everyone that's making sure that we're moving aggressively towards a solution for this. Thank you. Alrighty, we move on to item 14. Time has been set aside for mayor and council to receive an update on the state and national legislation and regional committees. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. With us again, he came back for another meeting. And so that means you're all in, right? Okay. All right. This is Andres Cano with our update on state and federal.
Thank you so much, Mayor and honorable members of the council. It's an exciting time for Tucson as we continue to work closely with our congressional partners on critical projects. Some of them have been mentioned throughout the meeting today. I do want to tell you on the federal side that the U.S. House and Senate are currently out of session for the August recess, and they will return on September 9th. In September, the House is expected to consider a short-term continuing resolution to extend the fiscal year beyond Election Day. And I want to thank this mayor and council for prioritizing visits in July with our federal contract team, Bracy Tucker Brown. We had productive meetings with your offices and coordinated visits with Tucson Water, our Department of Housing and Community Development, and the Economic Initiatives team. Going to the state side, I'm pleased to inform you that we are going to begin developing your legislative agenda shortly. This guiding document, as you know, is crucial for our work at the state capitol, and your input will be vital to shaping it. While the state's deficit prevented us from receiving funding for City of Tucson projects in this last state budget, we will start exploring opportunities for partnerships with our legislative delegation and, of course, the governor's office. In mid-July, I sent a memo to your offices outlining key legislative and citizen ballot initiatives for the November 2024 election. You may recall that the Arizona legislature referred 11 measures to the ballot during the 2023 and 2024 sessions. Those issues address ranked choice voting, initiative signatures, emergency powers by the governor, and judicial retention. And we sent an updated memo your way with the proposition numbers that voters in your wards will and our city will see on the November ballot. 3 citizen-driven initiatives will focus on establishing a right to abortion, nonpartisan primary elections, and increasing the minimum wage. Lastly, I want to share that 5 members of Tucson's legislative delegation were successful in the primary election that occurred just a few days ago. They will not face a general election opponent, and so on your behalf, we send our congratulations to State Senator Celian Gonzalez, Senator Rosana Gabaldon, Senator Priya Sundaresan, Representative Alma Hernandez, and Representative Betty Villegas. We look forward to working with them in the 57th legislature, and the remaining legislative seats will be decided in November. With that, I know that I am the only thing standing between the break for the regular meeting. Mayor and members of the council, with that, I am open for any questions. Thank you.
Any questions from my colleagues on the council? Thank you, Andres. Really appreciate your update. They're always so informative. But it's not just you standing in the middle of us and the break. There's still more to come. But I did want to just report on a couple of things. I want to express our deep appreciation to our congressional delegation for their continued support on Tucson's initiatives. As mayor, I've worked closely with our congressional delegation and the Biden-Harris administration to keep federal funds in Tucson and bring additional federal funds to Tucson, because I believe that when we work together, it is so much better and meaningful for Tucsonans. So like to thank everyone that participated in the 10th year anniversary of the Sunlink streetcar. Thanks to the incredible work again of our partnership with our congressional delegation and our mayor at the time, Mayor Walkup, for working so well together, Congressman Grijalva and Mayor Walkup at the time really did yeoman's work in bringing $73 million in federal funds to build Sunlink. Our benefit as a region has been $4 billion in public and private sector investment. And it's pretty incredible, the tangible benefits that we've seen. 10 million rides later, the streetcar stands as a beacon of transit equity, ensuring that all Tucsonans have access to reliable and efficient public transportation. As mayor and council prioritize infrastructure improvements throughout the city of Tucson, we've got lots of work and opportunities ahead of us for boosting affordable housing, to making bus rapid transit a reality. That's still in the works, and we're going to continue working on that. So thank you, Andres, for your incredible work. I know that we have some good news on Jacobs Park. We've received word that we have received, how much is the amount? Almost $3 million to from Deb Holland. I don't have the information in front of me. Where is it? Right here? Alrighty. So here's the information. 2.9, almost 3 million, 2.995 million dollars to revitalize and expand Jacobs Park in Ward infrastructure and plants over 300 new trees. I want to thank especially Congressman Grijalva and our entire congressional delegation for their support of this project. Also, I want to thank the Department of Interior and the Secretary, Deb Haaland, for choosing Tucson to invest this almost $3 million, $2.995 million to expand and reinvest into Jacobs Park, which is a really important thrive in the O5 area that we want to make sure that we're layering investments that has been historically disinvested in. So I just wanted to share officially that additional funds that we've had. With that, opening up for questions, comments, or anything else. Alrighty, thank you, Andres. Really appreciate your report. Alrighty, we move on to item 15. Does anyone have any items to remove from the consent agenda? Mr. Rankin.
Not to remove, Mayor, but just to let the mayor and council know here at the study session, we'll be reading a change into the record with respect to item C, which is the mayor and council meeting schedule, to update the exhibit so that it will show the next meeting as being August 27 instead of August 20.
Alrighty, anything else? Item 16, does anyone have any future agenda items? Mr. Rankin.
Mayor, I'm expecting that for a future agenda with a date as yet to be determined, we will be scheduling amendments to the MOUs between the city and our 4 recognized labor organizations, which of course you know to be TPOA, TFFA, CWA, and AFSCME. The reason we'll need to amend those agreements is the decision by the Arizona Supreme Court on July 31st that I circulated to the mayor and council in the case of Gilmore v. Gallego. In that decision, the court found that payment by cities to its employees for release time, which refers to time when those employees perform union duties, violates the Arizona Constitution, specifically the gift clause. The case was filed by the Goldwater Institute on behalf of a couple of employees of the city of Phoenix, under which they challenged the release time provisions in a specific MOU between Phoenix and the labor organization AFSCME. The court reversed prior law on the issue of release time and in a unanimous decision found that the city payment of release time is unconstitutional under the gift clause. Here in Tucson, each of our 4 existing MOUs has some version of release time within its provisions, as we had all relied on the Supreme Court's prior decisions to include those within our agreements. But now the court has reversed course and our MOU provisions cannot be carried out as they are written. We've notified the labor organizations, and at such time as we have amendments ready for your consideration, we will bring them forward to you. We can't talk about this issue right now because it's not on the agenda, but I wanted to put it on your radar for a future agenda and make sure that you know that this issue is not one that is a City of Tucson created issue or that my office has said you do this or do that or the city management. It's the product of a lawsuit and resulted in a reversal of Arizona law by the state Supreme Court.
Thank you for the report. Really appreciate it, Mike. And I mean, do we have to, or do you all have to work with the labor unions to kind of figure out what's next, or what's a for sure? And then what are the dates associated with the necessary changes?
Mayor, the for sure is that the Supreme Court decision is now the law of the land, and we have to figure out a way to comply with it. We have already started that process, notified the labor organizations and their legal counsel, and we will come back with amendments as soon as we're ready. I don't have a date to give you yet.
Thank you so much for the report, Mike. Really appreciate it. So study session is adjourned. The regular session will begin. Let's make sure I'm giving you plenty of time. The regular session begins at 5:30 p.m. The next study session will be Tuesday, August 27th, 2024. Thank you all.